Hello and welcome to this regulatory domain session as part of buildingSMART International Summit, Berlin 2025. Thank you for joining. My name is Yushen and I will be your moderator today. Today's session is titled Regulatory Domain Session 1, How the Domain Supports the Future of Regulatory, Between Emerging Technology and Legal Requirements. The speakers of this session are Franco Kwan, openBIM Regulatory Consultant, buildingSMART International, buildingSMART Italy. Tommy Hentoning, Chief Innovation Officer at Gravicom. This session is scheduled to last 90 minutes, including time for questions at the end. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. I would like to bring your attention to that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process of their adoption is transparent and the standards as they're developed do not favor any particular provider and are open, non-binding, and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct. Now I would like to hand over to Franco.
Thank you, everyone. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm Franco, and some of you already know me, but I am the chair of the regulatory domain, and Tommy is the real chair of the regulatory domain because. No, I'm joking, but we work together very, very strictly many times, and please, well, the first thing is we say how the domain support the future of the regulatory, but the right title should be how the domain would support the future of regulatory, and this presentation is partly a workshop. The agenda is, in fact, including after a short introduction and some information about the regulatory information requirement project that is our flagship project in this and during we run in Tommy run in 2024 and 2025. Something about the digital building regulatory momentum, some paths that we are facing, we are thinking for the future of the future of the regulatory domain. A short workshop just to say what you think about this, of course, and of course if you have any other suggestions and some conclusions. The domain, this is the regulatory room, steering committee, because we were born like as with the room name. Anyway, we have a change that has been happened in the last period. Elvira Kosla from Poland, and she is a BIM manager in the city of Krakow, joined the regulatory domain, replacing Paulina Magdiska, but she's having a baby. But as you can see, the steering committee is really international. We have people from all the continents. We don't have Africa yet, but we are working on this. Just a little word about our ongoing activities. We, as our steering committee and the domain, is working on surveying and taking some initiatives on openBIM technology for institutional use in general, so IFC evolution for regulatory information. We are also monitoring what is happening in the permitting, in a permitting, of course, taking a review what is open in both globally and regionally. We follow what is happening in the academy, and we're also following very as close as we can the field activities that are happening in the countries that are implementing digital building permitting, so Estonia, Finland, Dubai, Singapore, and also we have some hints from what is happening in the different research organization and projects. Our very last project deliveries, regulatory information requirement, as I already said, Tommy will talk about this, and also we released a guidance for regulators that is a short document, very, very high level, for text answering to major questions about regulatory implementation, and we will think that it could be something that could help the people that in institution want to promote the use of openBIM in the regulatory in their institution. Tommy, up to you.
Yeah, before we go to this, just to add on the things that Frank was talking. Now we have coming up new nominations and elections for the steering committee. So I guess it was before the next summit. We should have like a new steering committee. There are people who are continuing in the committee or in the steering committee, but then we have some places open, and so just if you're interested in the activities, then be active. Second thing, why? Maybe I start with why I am in the steering committee, why I'm in the regulatory domain and not in the building domain, for example. I believe that the regulatory domain is the most important domain of all. And I've said many times that what would be the best way to market IFC, the core, the buildingSMART core standard, what would be the best way to market it? The best way, of course, is make it mandatory. So if it's mandatory, then everybody would be using that. In Finland, we have a situation that it will become almost mandatory from the beginning of next year. And this project that I'm going to talk about is kind of connected to these mandatory or almost mandatory requirements, not only in Finland. Like Franco said, it was we had in this project we have had Estonia, who is already using BIM in the building permitting. We had UK, Singapore, some feedback from Dubai, Hong Kong, Canada. So we have kind of course, it's not really widely used, or like IFC is not widely used yet in building permitting, but we can see that it's kind of gradually coming in. For the RIR project, let's see, what slides do I have? Yeah, there's the
one more.
Okay. So yeah, we were a small group who is kind of the editorial team. Me and Nick Nisbet were more or less leading the project, and then we had some support from buildingSMART management. And then we have like a core group, 5-6 people who were really active in supporting the content. The deliverables, what we delivered last year, we had. We didn't introduce any new classes, which means that we didn't have any additional entities to IFC. That was actually a decision that we made in the beginning, that we tried to avoid that, because it's always difficult to kind of extend the classes. But we did introduce 200 something new predefined types, which basically are like subclasses. In IFC 5, probably these will be kind of also called classes. So basically, we are introducing new classes, maybe in the future versions of IFC. Couple of hundred new properties, which are. We started with a list of 3,000 something. Nick maybe remembers the exact figure, 3,600, something like that. That was the long list. And then we kind of went through that and analyzed which ones are totally totally local ones. So the number of saunas didn't make it to the final list. But yeah, anyway, so we have about 200, maybe a bit more than 200 new properties. These are then published. The use case definition can be found in the UCM platform, the use case management platform. The properties and predefined types, they are published in PSD. The new property sets are called P sets. So this is the buildingSMART way we should do it, because P set, the prefix P set in property sets, that's reserved to standard IFC stuff. And then, so when we are introducing new property sets, it's called CP set, so custom property set. Then we have a couple of, or some properties which are in property sets called EP sets, which is extended P sets. So when you go to the BSDD, you will find these prefixes in the property set names. In properties, we tried to follow, or we were following the rules given by buildingSMART, which means that the same, for example, the same property cannot be doubled. So if we have well, there's no well, gradient, for example, which is basically the slope of a floor or a ramp or whatever. That's one property, and then it can be attached to several classes, entities, IFC entities. Yeah. Yes and no, but maybe yes, in a way that maybe that would be kind of the perfect way to create the model or make the model. But no, that would be extra work for the architect at that stage, because the building permit is the stage where you are applying for building permit. It's well, it of course it differs from country to country, and there are, in some countries you have like 2 phases for the building permit, but for example, in Finland, we have only one stage that, and it's kind of in the level of conceptual design, and then it would be kind of extra work. So that's also, maybe that's like a more like a strategic question, that how, when you are defining your requirements for the content, you should also consider that how does it impact, for example, to agreements between the building owner and the architect. And we, in Finland, our approach has been that we try to change as little as possible on the process side, so that the process and the information that you deliver with using the models would be as close to the traditional drawing-based process, and not like messing up, because that's like I said, it would be the perfect way to model, but yeah, then it would add new things to the list that the architect needs to do. And
okay, so basically for the building permit, it would be like a requirement property space.
Yes.
Later on,
yes.
you receive the usage permit to be validated against the
Exactly.
property that is already attached to the covering.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good that's a good point. That the kind of the information that you put into building permits, it's typically requirement for the construction. Of course, it's kind of also meeting the regulations, but it's kind of a requirement. Any other questions? Yep.
Actually, one could say in the planning process, you have these planning decisions, and if you're in the early stage of design process, you always make requirement for the next stages.
Yeah.
So this is something like we cannot bring away the waterfall that you have in the planning process.
Yeah.
The decision of a step before will be a requirement for the next steps.
Yeah.
It's always true.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Any, Anna-Riitta?
Have you focused only on the regulatory part, like a minimum information about the building permit needs, or have you checked also these use cases like accessibility of others and what they need? Sorry. So maybe you heard, but I will. So have you focused only for the regulatory information need, which is basically the minimum information about the building for the building permit process, or have you already checked these use cases that, for example, accessibilities and others, what they need, because they have a different kind of needs also for the property sets?
The use case, yes, we had, yes, we did. One of the use cases was the identification, like project identification, and that's what you are meaning with the first part. But then, yes, accessibility, fire safety. What else did we have? Yeah. So we studied kind of not all use cases, but a couple of use cases. We saw kind of typical use cases that are which are kind of inspected or checked during the building permit process by authority.
Do we have some kind of summary for the different kind of countries, that what kind of regulatory information they are have the mandatory to collect? Not if they are not in the BIM process already, but maybe they have already this kind of regulatory information forms or something like that. Do we have some kind of summary of that?
Nick can answer this.
Yep.
Sorry. The regulatory room did do a project a few years ago looking at application forms, because we don't just submit drawings or models. There's always the application form, and so we did a review of the planning and zoning and technical aspects and what people were being asked for. And so that gave us a bit of background to this. And the other thing is our session tomorrow, which is at 2:00, we'll be looking at as many regulatory purposes as possible. So this project focused, as Tommy said, on fire, accessibility, and environmental. But I know that around the world there are probably 20, 25, 30 use cases of things that are regulated. And so we're trying to make a catalogue. So it's to decide what the role of an international level is. Of course, individual countries will have specific regulations and needs. Tommy and I always joke about the number of saunas, but different countries do have very specific aspects of regulations. In the UK, there's a regulation about providing broadband internet connections to new houses. Quite an unusual, I think fairly unusual requirement.
Not anymore, because that's coming in from the EU. So European Union requires that. That is a new. That's why it was one of the.
What's this EU thing? Never heard of it.
Yeah, but that's there was a couple of like the broadband like the network. It was actually not broadband. It was
optic fiber.
Optic fiber, yes. Electric charging for cars. Yes. Okay. Shall we continue? Yep.
Okay. So just a couple of introduction to the building momentum in digital regulatory. At the moment, we have what we registered in the last years is a relevant growth of interest about the building regulatory digitalization. So we have here just not all, but some of the examples of cities or national or countries or other countries where there are building mandates not strictly related to digital building projects, where this is happening. And every time you come to a summit, we have news about what is going on in different countries and in different regions of the world. Now, a document that is very interesting is the IFC mandate that has been published by the buildingSMART chapters, and it has been updated in 2025. It has been published in 2024. That means that there is a lot of activity, and we try also to classify a little bit which kind of topics they are talking about, and many of them are talking about permitting, but not only. And so what is happening is the wave is rising, and we have a lot of activities every time we come to the summit. So we go to other also the number of the conferences that are related to digital building permitting or to digital regulatory is growing, but we don't understand why regulatory bodies are not flooding the regulatory domain with the feedbacks or requests. So our the communication with the regulatory we have with the regulatory bodies are quite limited, and actually is something that we would like to optimize for the future. We just took a look of what we think that is a regulator, and we make this kind of small atomic bomb schema where we have the regulator in the middle, is surrounded by different operators that are connected with him. He has two main flows, in our opinion, that are building permitting and public asset management, and different areas that are collecting this, that are influencing these workflows. But what actually we discover when we talk with the regulators is that their problems, their issues are related to many other things that are outside of this small circle. And and some of them are actually not related to buildings or like update of the national taxation or something like that. So what we are thinking, we think about the future of the regulatory domain, and we are thinking what can we do more for be more in touch with regulators and the regulatory bodies. So we made a list. Just we will go into these topics one by one, and please, we ask you to select which one you think are more important, because at the end in the workshop we will ask you for a rank which one is probably the one we have to discuss more. Of course, we will not stop the activity on digital building permitting. This is something we want to add to our activity, and of course, as Tommy said, we want to continue and enforce, in my opinion, the regulatory information requirement project and transform it in a workflow. Actually, that's what we want. So one of the discussion was about the improvements in digital building permitting enabled by emerging technologies such as machine learning and AI. We have two different opinions in this area. There are concerns about how swiftly these new technologies can be incorporated into the building regulatory framework, the base of data that are needed for machine learning or AI for a regulatory support is not enough. It's a very broad database we need, and the legal challenge there are of course a lot of legal challenges of accepting this kind of not yet so controlled technology in approving process. On the other way, we know that the primary focus and expected advantage of digital building permitting is automating the checks. And so automating the checks means probably involve this kind of technologies. And there is also an increasing interest or discussion in the governments about how to use AI in the governance of the countries, in the governance of public services. We had in the regulatory domain, we have our champion for AI and machine learning is Tamer Al-Dirabi. He is a professor in the University of Toronto, and is taking us update of what is going on. But what we are thinking is it here, do we have to establish a team to work directly on these areas? And regarding not only watching at academic studies, but also watching what is happening in the governments, in the different jurisdiction about the adoption of AI.
They're kind of using AI and in general new technology and dynamic data is a little bit problematic in when we look at the building permitting process, for example, that because in the process the applicant and the authority should see exactly the same information, and if there's a risk that the information is somehow changed or modified in the process, then how can the architect, the applicant, how he or she can be sure or write his or her name under the application? So there has to be kind of static information. Well, in other processes, maybe you need dynamic data, but in building permitting, you need really static information, and you need to be quite sure that it's not anyhow changed in the process. So it's a little bit different needs what we have in the when we are talking about regulatory processes, and those needs to be considered when we are investigating using the new technology and new kind of features of, for example, IFC.
Absolutely, I agree. When it's something that we are discussing, but on the other side, if you go to the session from the other domain, everybody is talking about an introduction of AI in their processes and workflow. So it's something that at the end will come also in the permitting, and this is one of the options we have. It's not the only. Another idea is to point and focus a little bit more on digital building permitting requirements for assets in sophisticated environments like hospital, energy stations, and so on. We know that because when we start to talk about digital building permitting, many times in the countries or the people is thinking to simple houses or simple examples, but at the end, that kind of construction is, and the ecosystem that is working on that is not so ready for talking about digital building permitting. And while if the people that is working in a complex environment probably is more keen to find a solution for their regulatory problems with digitalization. Today we have Tommy that has been working for a long period in hospital projects. I think so.
Public projects,
Yes,
mainly, yes.
Yes, while my experience comes from digitalization or regulatory in different environments for not only building, but for pharma, healthcare, aerospace, and defense. The idea is to establish a team and to comprehend how this can enhance the regulatory. So do we have to look first to or before to their requirements that are quite sophisticated many times for making the process of to create more interest in the use of openBIM in digital building permitting.
But it could be, it's kind of a I don't see that the digital building permitting or BIM-based building permitting is not limited to any specific building type or project type. For example, in Finland, most of the single-family houses are actually they are made by companies or housing. They are pre-made pretty much, so they are not. Of course, it's still happening that a family starts just building their house from scratch, but that's quite rare, to be honest. So most of the single family houses are one way or the other pre-made, and which means that these companies who are producing these small houses, they are actually quite digital already. So it's the threshold is not really high for them. Whereas when we go to large scale renovations, the data that kind of exists could be really, really limited, and it could be quite difficult to get there. For example, to create the model in those cases. So it's but in Finland we are not limiting anyhow in the building permitting. The new legislation, it takes all buildings, so there is no limitation. We only limitation that is that less than 30 square meters, you don't have to actually apply for building permit anymore. That's a new thing in Finland. So yeah, it's strange. But anything about 30 square meters, any type of project, renovation, new buildings, public buildings, private buildings. So it's not limited at all.
Yeah, but it's something that, of course, comes up because one of the great things that we have in the regulatory domain is that we can listen also sometimes, not every time, different country situation and people that are starting from behind that is not so ready for digitalization sometimes have different requirements or they think differently. Just a proposal. Another proposal is about going the deep in the requirement for EFC and openBIM throughout the entire regulatory workflow. Which comes, for example, we see here the flows that we find the history of the projects synthesis that comes from Finland and from Singapore, and all of them, you can see they have different steps, and sometimes some of these steps are very essential for the process. Like, I don't know, the IFC4 as an official archiving format in Finland has been a good step for coming to use it in the digital building permitting, while in Singapore there was another thing that was related to the use for interchange in the offices between into the public services. So there are parts that are a little bit let's say not so focused on digital building permitting, but could help in talking with institutions about
the diagram above on the top right corner is actually a bit old.
Yes.
We have now the new legislation is now in the EU notification, and it probably won't change too much there. The minimum requirement from the beginning of next year will be IFC 4.3. So when you are applying for building permit in Finland, you have to deliver IFC 4.3 format file together with the application.
Yes. But so we are watching to the dream, yes, you know, because every time if you go to Italy, for example, we have now we have a fantastic mandate for using IFC in tenders, but we cannot archive the document of the tender because the IFC is not archiving format. So there are.
Yeah, that's quite. That was an important point. how we did, what was the process, and the archiving was one of the key elements that because we have like we have a law, legislation or archiving act, which says that all documents or information that municipalities and building authorities are managing must be in a format that can be archived. So that was basically one of the first steps in this roadmap to build IFC-based building permits in Finland, was to actually get the IFC as an official archiving format. So and that happened to 22. So that was kind of an essential step on this roadmap.
Oyvind?
Yeah.
Should I use a mic or not? No?
Yep. Just a sec.
Thank you. I think this discussion about archiving is quite important. I know for just before the pandemic, I think it was the last meeting I was more or less before they closed down, or I don't know, something around that 2020. They also approved the IFC as an archive format in Norway. And then I was in a seminar with this agency responsible for archiving legislation and so on. And they had a quite good argument why this is approved as an archive format. So it might be a good idea to try to collect this argument and information and share them. So other countries maybe also can start pushing against their archive authorities, because there should be no reason why other countries also could accept IFC as an archive format, because they have some special tools that they check it for consistency. They have a lot of tools that use to check file formats and so on. I didn't understand anything of it, but it seems that IFC was accepted good enough to get through all their tools. So I guess that is more or less the same they use in every country. Thank you.
The second thing, which was kind of also, there was a discussion about this IFC, which version should be kind of the minimum requirement. And there was a kind of a debate over this, but finally why the ministry chose IFC 4.3. There were a couple of arguments. One was that, well, of course it's the latest, and the legislation will kind of live at least 10 years, maybe 15 years. It won't be changed. Well, that's one argument, but I think that was not the strongest one. I think that the strong arguments were that IFC 4.3 includes infra extensions, which means that in many projects, at least in large-scale projects, you always have both building and infra involved. The second thing was that now, and this was a very new thing, was that IFC 4.3, as announced by buildingSMART International, will not be overruled by IFC 5. So IFC 4.3 probably it will be developed, and most likely it will be developed like all other ISO standards. But IFC 4.3 will live side by side with IFC 5. That was the second one. And then the last one, which I think was quite strong, was that IFC 4.3 includes the model view definition in the standard. In IFC 4.0, the model view definition is a separate non-standard document, which is kind of from the legislation point of view, it's a little bit tricky that you are kind of relying on a document which is basically just a document put out, which is, it doesn't have like a formal role. The MVD is the model view definition is kind of the key thing anyway, because IFC is so broad that you can't say that, okay, you need to deliver IFC. Well, what type of IFC? and that's why we need the MVD. So we need to kind of have the scope. So the reference view was kind of because it's embedded to IFC 4.3, that was one of the key elements that why the government chose 4.3 as a minimum requirement.
Yushen?
Okay, you're the closest to me, so no, just.
Is the microphone on?
Is it?
Yeah, sorry.
No.
Okay.
I think it's important that you should not stick to one version or any format. If it's IFC, PDF, whatever, they archive a lot of formats, and I guess they have a system that you can also have newer version of for archiving.
Yeah,
And I
but
guess,
that-
and for example, for IFC 5 will be something different.
Mm.
You can maybe not call it IFC or whatever. That will be something different. That has to also be some kind of approval system in the future.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, it's the minimum. It's IFC 4.3 or greater. That's how it's in the legislation. Anna-Riitta, you had.
Yes, as I'm a practical person and I have been working for years for developing these Finnish concepts, and of course Tommy and others have been my colleagues for that. Maybe we should organize some kind of Teams meeting or something that we will publish for this archiving system that we are having and developing in Finland, because I think that we have something that we could show that how we solve the problem in Finland and what was the IFC. Like Tommy said, that what was this kind of reasons that why we choose that and what is this, and in the same time we could get more visibility in this regulatory domain. We could reach out the practical key persons in different countries who are interested and responsibility for this, because as we are here to learn and share the experiments and to be the better persons and the better countries and the better processes, this could be something that we can do together, because we have a very good concept in Finland, and we will finalize that through our national projects that we are having now, and we can make that perhaps, I think that through the RAVA 3.5 or RAVA 4 that we are going to start soon. So how you see it? Could we organize this kind of event and presenting this concept as a learning material that other countries could take this also?
That's one. This is the reason why we are focusing on this new initiative because we think that for the future. Because one thing that we honestly are facing, for example, when Elvira came and she said, "Oh no, in my country we don't have any of these things," and her first step was Elvira. She was the Polish member, the new Polish member, and she said, "No, I'm not in the right place." While we think that they have a mandate in this moment, and so she is in the right place. And so I think that being able also to talk about archiving, or, for example, procurement is another area in this moment. Procurement, of course, for public assets is another area where there are some requests from different countries. Of course, we are talking about regulated approach. It's not only digital building permitting, but we don't want, of course, talk about the digital passport or things like that, but provide something that can be in the steps to arrive to digital building permitting. Because, for example, mandates more than 50% are related to tendering and the procurement. So this could be an idea to watch too.
Yes. And as I'm not a member of the board, but I'm a very active buildingSMART
I know.
network people and in Finland and others. So I can promise my in-kind word for this event organizing for our Finnish national projects that we are doing for this archiving issues. So I can help you with that. I hope that that's something that you can consider.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anna-Riitta. We were counting on you, of course, in case. Okay, of course, this doesn't mean that we are abandoning anyway the digital building permitting. As Jan Saar said, is the openBIM killer app, is the app that is important, is the key app for making digital building openBIM adopted in the world. And just to make, we are just trying, as I said, trying to make it a little bit easier to understand for institutions when we are approaching this process. As we said, we have in our regulatory domain, we have different people that is coming from Finland, from Singapore, so they have from Estonia, that they are giving us very good. Not from Estonia. But they are always very active in our connections. So we have very good way to understand what is going on in the trailblazer countries. We have also people like me or Masaki or other people that is not in a country that, or Elvira, that are in countries that are not so advanced in digitalization. But we need, as you said, Anarita, we should have some tools, something provide some hints of what can be done in the other area that are connected to digital building permitting. This question about quantitative time and quality benefits versus issues and costs of regulatory projects. We start from a survey in 2022, and where we find that the cost was more or less one of the main issues. And now we are finding some very good documents about reporting the effective, the astonishing reduction in time consumed or in number of forms used. Like this is a document that has been released by Singapore, and this is very interesting for us to be more active in, let's say, in talking about this more extensively, because this time I don't see the people from Australasia, but every time we repeat this question when we meet in here at the summits. Establish a team, because now the information start coming for monitoring, and focusing also in finding a kind of schema, a kind of method and guidelines to assess a comprehensive value proposition for the digital building permitting project. And also here from Finland and from the other countries, very interesting to collect these areas.
We did in the regulatory domain, we did some years ago kind of brief study that and tried to figure out that what type of differences there are worldwide in the building permitting processes, and they are actually quite alike, quite similar. So there are not that much variation. There could be some variation in who is actually handling the building permits, because in some countries it's very local, very kind of the jurisdictions could be rather small. In some countries it could be larger organizations who are managing them, but basically we have quite similar process, or we have maybe couple of different processes, but they are kind of that's all. So there's not that big variation in them, and of course, if we look at the whole construction and all the processes in construction, building permitting is the only globally a global project which is similar in basically in every country. So in order to build, you need to have a building permit, and that's unless it's less than 30 square meters. But it's kind of that, it's globally kind of the same thing in every country. Any other process differs, but the building permit is pretty much the same. It follows the same concepts.
Okay, and last but not last, we already talked about this with Nick before, about the rules, regulation, recommendation, progressing towards like to say something, or I continue to say just to talk about this slide that says we.
Yeah, perhaps 4 or 5 years ago, the regulatory domain did a study of all the approaches that have been advocated both in academic and industry methods for turning what are usually text documents into operable rules. And it remains a challenge because of the volume of the regulations, because of the fact that they change every 3 years or so, and also because there's hidden knowledge, implied knowledge in the documents, which means you shouldn't get software programmers to do it. They're not the right people because they don't know and they don't understand. So we did a study of all the current methods, and it included a proposal for a new method, which I've been developing to try and reduce the costs of regulatory systems. If you pay for software programmers, you pay a lot. So there must be ways of doing it more efficiently and cheaper and more accurately. When I worked on the Singapore system 20 years ago, it worked, but no one believed it. So there are challenges there. I think it's always timely to go back to work that was done 5 years ago and say, what's changed? Are we doing better? We've had the 3 EU projects, which have all, in one way or another, looked at the problem of capturing the regulations to make the machine operable. Of course, we have some improvements in AI and large language models, which may help, but no AI has got the mind of a building control officer yet. So yeah, I think it's something that we could go back to and try and make sure that we separate when AI is appropriate, when rule templates are appropriate, and maybe when programming is necessary, such as energy regulation. So it's a tough area, but I think it's one that's got to be solved, because after we've done regulations, we also need to look at client requirements, as in hospital, very extensive client requirements. And of course, there are recommendations. So it's a deep pile of problems we've got to address, and we've got to find the right technology.
Thank you, Nick. And the real, our goal is not to leave Nick alone in doing this, and to have some people that can work with him in this very, very tough process. So now just a very little idea of the workshop. The workshop is related that we have a point that we have to solve, not so little. We are talking about resources. And so, of course, we are sure that we have to front all these topics. We have to discuss about the topics that we listed, but at the end we need some priorities. So what we would like to do is, of course, collect any of your comments, if you have any comments about comparing one to the other, and then raising your hand, you can say us which one you think is more urgent. And of course, if you have any other suggestion about the direction that the regulatory domain should take in the future, please, the microphone is for you. We have a microphone. Okay, I think we can start with the voting. and then we can discuss about what is going on. Ah, no, sorry. Exactly.
So I think not only BIM model, but also we connecting some GIS to connecting a BIM model. So in Japan, we want to need some GIS information is used to rule check for a building. So, but it's not. I'm not sure the something like the big something rules for representation some site model in the BIM. So and importing some importing some information from the GIS. So it is not. I'm not. Sorry. I'm not. Not enough to. The relation is defined. I think. So. So in particular, unless we seriously consider linking geometric information with the site entities from BIM models, database review will not to be possible in Japan, I think. That's all.
This is a topic that we've been also kind of conflicting or seeing in Finland. There's a challenge with the site model or site information in general, because if you look at the traditional building permit drawings in 2D format, in the site plan, you have lots of actually annotations, things which don't have geometrical representation, and now IFC supports those, but the software tools that we are using to create the IFC, they don't. So we are not able to export annotations, for example. And then kind of there are also some other aspects. So I think it's got rather interesting and important topic to kind of put forward and develop kind of the link between the site model and maybe beyond. Also, that's, like I said, one of the reasons why the government in Finland chose IFC 4.3 was that we have, of course, the infrastructure which is surrounding us, and so how do we link information from the infrastructure to our building permit documentation? The kind of the dream, in a way, I guess, is at least in the authority side, is that we have in the city plans, we have lots of rules for what type of building, how many floors, what is the height of the building, maybe color of the building, the materials, and so on and so on. So we have lots of kind of requirements in the city plan, and how can we at some stage, could we automatically combine or check the building permit application against these requirements which are in the city plan? That is the dream. We are not there yet, but
I agree completely.
Yeah. But it's also in the two of the three projects that have been run in Europe, Czech and Accord, were hardly focusing on the GIS and IFC integration, so openBIM integration. So it's a good topic. Nick?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of nonsense generated about GIS versus BIM. At one time, BIM was ahead of the GIS world, and so we talked about importing GIS information into BIM. And then I think the GIS world caught up, and we started talking about taking BIM information into the GIS world. There's also a lot of confusion because in the GIS world, you have a record of what is there, but also the classification of space of sites and zones, which then relate to a written document, which is the rules about density and volumes and so on. The city of Vienna has done a very interesting exercise where the applicant can name their site, and in return they get an IFC volume or shape of what the building can occupy, which helps. But as Masaki says, there's lots of questions about representing the surroundings of the building. I think when we did the application analysis, it was very clear you needed two models. One is a model of the current situation, and then you needed a model of the intended building project, whatever it is. A lot of application processes sort of crush this and say, how many more houses are you providing? How many more parking places? Actually, you need, how many are there now? How many are there in the future to regulate it properly? How many trees are there now? How many trees are there afterwards? And so on. So I think we can handle those things if we just think carefully about it. And also, we don't confuse the information in GIS that's about what's actually there with the classification of those spaces which are used for regulations. So I think, so yes, you're right, the Accord project, and particularly the Czech project, has done this very well. I'm not sure that we need a special project to look at it. I think we need cases, examples, but I don't think it's a subject for a special project.
Probably it's not limited only to digital building permitting. There are so many other actions in the building workflow that are related to this connection.
Yeah, and then, for example, tomorrow I will have this kind of like presentation about how to actually utilize the IFC schema and for the detailed zoning planning. For example, if we're like looking at the city planning, there are like several levels of it. And of course, when we're talking about master planning, or is the comprehensive plans maybe the correct term about it, it's very logical that it is and it will be in the GIS domain, because this is just this kind of like holistic level, and it would not make sense to start duplicating this kind of information to BIM. But when we're talking about a smaller level, when we go into the detailed zoning planning, then this is one of the parts that during the building permit, there are countries who are doing the technical survey themselves about the quality of the project, but there are the ones that are not doing that. This is for the consultants, but what they are doing everywhere is checking if the building project is according to the detailed zoning plan for the zoning requirements. And of course, well, this could be somehow the GIS, but then we also have to think of the practical situation. Nowadays, the planners are mostly using AutoCAD just to produce these kind of 2D drawings, layers on top of layers filled with hatches. And I will just showcase this. How can we really implement also the BIM, how to implement the IFC to have this information as well, because this would be this foundation of the building life cycle, and then we can utilize that. But then again, there would be the question like, should we do it? If we do it, do we really need new classes? We definitely need new predefined types and properties to accommodate these kind of needs. But then there would be this kind of, this would be maybe a question to throw to the regulatory domain, like, is it relevant at all? And if it is relevant, to what extent it should be investigated?
Yeah, if you are interested in this topic, I recommend that you join the session when Chris. When is that, Chris? When you are showing this?
Unfortunately, it starts 2 p.m. tomorrow, so I would really like to clone myself and listen to Nick's presentation as well, but this is impossible. So yeah.
But it's he will show kind of a practical example how it works in real life. Okay, how do you want to do the voting?
Just raising your hand.
Okay.
You can do multiple voting. You can vote for everyone. I just want to put. Just keep your hand down if you are not interested in some of these topics. This is.
How many times can I run?
6.
6 times.
Maximum 5.
Maximum 7.
Yeah. And yes, and I don't know, Yusheng. Now, for the people in online, they can send a message about. Okay, so the final result will be after we collect all the online voters. Okay.
But if so that we don't get everybody raising their hands on all the topics,
because
let's say that you can vote for three
Yeah.
topics that you like the most. Three, maybe
Yes.
that makes
Yes,
more sense.
Yeah. Make
Okay.
more sense. Otherwise, we have
Shall we
priority
start?
list that make no sense. Of course, yeah. Okay, the first line, the first vote is for to do just more on digital building permitting and automatic checking process and tools, but not just as we working as usual, let's say. But I think that the thing is that we have to continue to work to focus on digital building permitting. This is the real question that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 17? Okay. I'm sorry, because I don't know. I don't think
Because then we
that.
have online also.
Yeah, because I am online, so otherwise I disconnect. So 17, I take note of that.
Yeah, 15 online, but no one voting on the chat.
Yeah, okay, I will put it on the chat. Improvement in digital building permitting enabled by emerging technologies such as machine learning and AI. 10 or 11?
No, again, 17. 17 too.
17 too?
Yeah, 17.
Okay. Same people? No.
Complex sectors like healthcare and energy, focusing on complex sector. Only one. Okay, but it's okay. It's very interesting. This makes the voting very interesting. Requirement of FC and openBIM through the entire regulatory workflow, archiving, and the other kinds of stuff. $19?
No, 24.
24. Well, I don't see anything from here. I have 430. Okay. Costs and values that are measurable time and quality advantage compared to challenge and expenses. 0 vote. 1 vote.
2, 3.
3. And then rules, regulation, the recommendation, working on the. And
No comment.
23.
23. Okay. At the moment, we have that working on on different part of the digital building permitting process, so archiving and so on, and working on the rules. It looks to topics we should focus earlier in the future, because of course we know that all of these topics would be part of our our panorama in the future. Conclusions. Okay, what can we do also in our organization to get better in this? One thing is that I show you these slides that was from I presented in the 2021 Virtual Summit with the mask, the one, you remember? Where the sun is openBIM standards and buildingSMART and the regulatory domain are on the Earth trying to send the message to different planets, the regulatory industries, that is Jupiter, very big, a lot of storms on sun. And regulatory bodies like Saturn, a little bit far from the sun with the rings. What are the rings? So a little bit obscure of what is going on. We know very little about. Actual situation in 2025 is regulatory bodies are more and more they know what openBIM is. There is no any openBIM what answer from them. They also institutions, but the real problem is to push the process inside. And we think that it's not more the time to just send a message, but we have to send a starship. And we think that these starships are the buildingSMART chapters that can go closer to the national institution, to the local institution, to the municipalities that are approaching these processes. So in the future, our idea is we want to be and continue to be the nerds that are working on properties, on different, I don't know, the properties for archiving and so on. The one that collect which tip and tricks are provided by the other countries, study the case studies of what they're going on. Policy and strategy is for the development of the standard is for buildingSMART. And we would like to connect with the BSI chapters to have a stream that goes to regulatory bodies and to institutions more strictly, because in Finland it's not a problem, but somewhere else, yes, it is. And because we think that openBIM evolution after the process is going to move to a more parameter use and maintain approach to data. So it means long-term data life cycle. And so we need, of course, having institution on board in this process. And any of you is interested in collaborating in this, in having some more, want to know something or write a paper, ask us, you can connect to us. But if you are really interested, if you're really keen in collaborating in this process, as Tommy said, please talk with your chapter leader and submit nomination for yourself or your colleagues to join the regulatory domain steering committee. I think that we will have a bigger domain, a bigger steering committee, so more people will be involved in. Not all of the people that are present now will continue, so we have many. We have open positions, let's say it like this. And okay, if there is any other question, the other.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Victoria Lorignon, and I'm a PhD student working on the impact of policy and regulatory on the digital transformation of construction. And my question is, from what you've told us about the different strategy and guideline of the steering committee and the working group, how do you evaluate the different things that you are working on, like the impact of it? So yeah, this is kind of an open question, but I'm really interested to hear about you with that.
Oh.
We don't. You are very welcome to join the steering committee.
Okay, that was my second question.
We definitely, that would be interesting to see some metrics and kind of what has been the impact. And because I think that I strongly believe that the kind of BIM-based building permitting will change things more than the whole kind of digital construction stuff, because maybe this is just for Finland, but I think it's not just Finland, but people don't do things if it's like free to do it. If it's mandatory, then they have to do it. So actually the regulations and kind of the mandatory processes, they actually steer the ship, basically. Unfortunately, it works like that, but that's human life, human nature, let's say, that we don't like to do things, especially in the construction business. We are not doing anything if it's not mandatory.
And I can assure you that when we see that in any mandate, in any regulatory mandate or the public mandate, that there is written openBIM, like they are doing in Hong Kong, they announced to me yesterday, we are very happy. We are very, very happy.
Thank you.
Yes, but you can
I've browsed through the ideas that from the use case, and I've of course some quite detailed questions about that. So I'm not gonna.
You can put them to Nick.
Yeah, I will. But overall, it looks really good because I just browsed through it, and what I see, for example, the clear width and the clear height of doors. It's really quite easy to implement in models because they're all already in predefined components that are parametric. So I think it really looks good. Yeah. So thanks.
Very good.
Yes, my question is related to the cost of the participant, because if you are only accepted if you are coming for the buildingSMART chapters, there must be issues. I know the case that one person from Finnish municipalities who is very active would like to join. She was voluntary, and when this voluntary came out, then they came out also the price that her organization should pay. I don't remember, was it the 15,000 or the 13,000 euros that she could participate, as she don't get anything for the payments for the work.
Yeah.
But I think that this is some kind of problems that if only the chapters can accept the persons in this, you will lose some kind of persons that are not able to join via chapters. For example, I would hope that our Chris from Estonian could join, but Estonian is not in the chapter. So you will lose the intelligent people because if you only nominate. I understand the buildingSMART has the rules, and it should be like this, and it should be like chapters, of course. But maybe you should think about this whole value of the human powers and the networks and this kind of social impact, that you can have some kind of group of the key stakeholders, for example. I know that the municipalities are maybe not part of the chapters, but maybe some municipalities key person could be very valuable for you, as you are now trying to implement this, all the wisdom that you have been developing. So something that you can think about it. For example, if I would like to join, I couldn't join because we already have the Finnish chapter fully booked. So I would have to find a new chapter to join or fix another problem. But let's have a thought that maybe you would like to have these kind of persons. Yeah. And I'm not speaking myself. I can get the information. I can participate other way, but I still think that you should make a larger group and not based on the chapters only.
Yeah, of course. This is basically the topic, and this is for the management, for buildingSMART management, and for chapter meetings, and because probably it will need some changes in the bylaws. But this is a challenge especially for regulatory domain, since our target group is, like you said, they are like municipalities, also and many of those are not. It's not possible for them to join, for example, to buildingSMART, even though they would like to be involved, but they don't have the. It's not just possible for them to do it. So yeah, this is a issue, especially in the regulatory domain, where we are working with the public sector.
Yeah, we have been discussing many times with buildingSMART. For example, the open house events we founded, we created them to make free events to allow the people in the institution to take part to buildingSMART activities, because otherwise if it's limited to people associated to buildingSMART, it's a big problem for us. So open events, and also we were discussing on the opportunity of create a kind of chamber of institutions or something like that to support this process. Good point.
Yeah, there's an ongoing IT project with a number of countries participating. Belgium, Netherlands, Portugal, and Denmark, and we are trying to use at least some of us are trying to push for ISC and use that for as much as possible. I also know that I have reached out to Nick to use the RACE method to analyze the rules the kind of rules regarding fire and the law and so forth, and that's been going on. But there's a strong interest in the Netherlands to use linked data ontologies for that and do it automatically. And there seems to be some concern for some people in the project if they are able to validate the output. And some claim it's not a problem, and some see it as a problem. So it's and how should they be formulated? Is that in the project they try to do as shackle shapes? Some is done by IDS, but mainly it's done by shackle shapes. Do you have any recommendations how to do that? Kind of how to represent the law and the rules that are different in different countries. It seems to be that it is the Netherlands rules are kind of fits a little bit into the structure they're made, but its rules are made in different countries different ways, so it's not that easy to have it into this structure.
Nick seems to have an answer for this. When you are delivering the microphone to Nick, one of the challenges that I have found, for example, with IDS, because with IDS we can check information, but we can't change we can't check the geometry. And then when we come to code checking, for example, the regulations for accessibility or fire safety, so then we probably we need to also check the geometrical proportions, geometrical information. So yeah, we probably need some more tools for that. But Nick,
yeah, validation, as I hinted, was the problem. One of the problems in Singapore 20 years ago was credibility, because software programs cannot be checked. A typical building regulation will involve maybe 1,000 bits of data to decide if a building is compliant to the fire regs. That's 3 to the power of 1,000 possible combinations you might want to check. It can't be done. So I think one of the topics, if we look at the methods again, is to say which ones of these can be validated efficiently. And I think templates offer a way forward, that people can squeeze regulations into standard templates. And that gives you some assurance that other people have used the same templates in the past, if they fit what you're trying to do. Machine learning and natural language processing, again, it's uncheckable. So you have to be very careful with that. And you were kind enough to mention RAISE, which is checkable. Unfortunately, in one of the papers I've published says that the last thing you should use is Sparkle or Shackle, because of one fundamental weakness, which is that they don't handle unknown. And any of us who've worked in the real world in regulation know that sometimes the information isn't there yet. And if you get results that tell you failed, when what it should say is the information isn't there yet, you're not helping. So I'm passionate that we must use languages, rule engines that are robust and handle unknowns properly, of which there are several. And curiously, I've come back to love SQL because that handles unknown information properly. And just because it's 45 years old doesn't mean it's wrong. So if there is interest in taking forward this debate about rule capture, I'm very willing to restart the group, but I would like some support, because my university supervisors have said that I should be working harder on that.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
The time's up.
The time is up. We are perfectly on time. Yeah. And of course, in the document, I will share with you about the session. There will be the result of the voting, including the votes from the online. And one more time, thank you very much for attending.
Yeah, thank you.